Hey, and welcome to another episode of Eight Rice Up. I'm your host, Ryan Rice, and this is my beautiful wife, Maida.
Hello and welcome to episode 11.
Ooh,
We're going to be talking about something very interesting
yes,
and very hard at the same time.
right. Something we never thought we'd actually have to do.
No.
No, it's blending families. So, what we're talking about is just the struggles and I guess the successes of blending families, right?
Right.
I know when I first got married, I never had the thought of I'm eventually going to have a blended family, right? Ever, which is ironic because what my parents got divorced when I was 12, and my dad got remarried, and they actually had three kids about my age, and they were married for a very short time. It was under a year, and so that was kind of a unique situation. Um, and then my mom would always go date and things, and the thought, I, I want to call it the threat was always there. I know that's the wrong word. The threat was always there of her getting married and having to blend families, right? And then you've got another man in the house, and you're like, "Uh-oh, how do I deal with this?" Right? Because as a teenager, like obviously you're dealing with a lot, and you're going to be a little rebellious. And having somebody else come in that says, "Oh, I'm going to be the man of the house," and you're like, "You're not my dad." Um,
Yep.
it's challenging, right?
Yeah, no, it totally caught me off guard.
Hmm.
I'm going to say it. The only thing I was thinking really when I decided to get married again was that my kids were going to have a male figure and that they were going to have a father, especially the two little ones, because, right, they didn't know one was a baby and the other one was two. And they had absolutely no idea that their father had passed away. And so, and obviously, I had my teenager who was very aware and was not very happy with the idea, obviously. Because for him, it was really hard. He saw it as I was replacing his father, which is not true. It was not about replacing him because I don't think anybody's gonna be able to replace him ever. But the idea was, oh, my kids are gonna grow up with a dad in a complete family
Hmm.
unit, right? Because
Right.
my marriage was very the other one that I had, it was for 15 years. It was a very successful marriage, and that's what I was used to. And so I was very, very scared, honestly, to raise my kids on my own. And when you're a widow and you're young, you're like, how do you do this? If I would have been older, maybe I would have been like, I can do this by myself, like, but it was hard being pregnant when he died. It was extremely hard for me. And I think it's not that women cannot do it. I think women, we are very capable of doing anything that we want to do. And I think I would have been fine. I would have been fine. But really, it caught me off guard. When it hit me a month later after you and I got married that we were a blended family.
Hmm.
I never thought about the whole blending thing. I thought more about, oh, we're fixing it. Like there's gonna be a daddy and there's a mommy, and I was fixing it for you because your kids were really little
Hmm.
and they needed a mom, and I wanted to be their mom.
Yeah. When I was looking at it, yeah, because I take a very logical approach, and I said, I think my kids are going to be screwed up if they don't have a mom and dad in the house, right? And right, I was living with my mom at the time because I needed a female figure in their life, even if it was just for a short few weeks. Um, I didn't think I doubted my personal ability to be mom and dad, and maybe rightfully so, but I just didn't think I could be mom and dad. And so I said, okay, I need somebody to help me out. And yeah, that's one of the big reasons I got married or started dating in the first place was I said, if it was just me, I would go goof off and go hang out. Like I've got a single brother that um loves to like he would love to go on adventures.
Right.
But yeah, if you when you have kids, it's like, well, I got to put them first,
It's different.
right? And
It's totally different.
it,
Yeah.
it's a way to distract yourself as well, right? And you say, you know what, I'm doing it for them. I'm gonna put them first. I'm gonna make sure that they're taken care of because dealing with my stuff is not something I want to do right now,
Right.
right? So, but yeah, that's what I did. I started dating and things because I wanted them to have a mom,
Mm-hmm.
And that was the intention was I want a complete family because I want them growing up stable, knowing
Now,
they're
let me
loved.
clarify. So your mom and your dad, they got divorced when you were 12.
Right.
So you went through a lot of trials as a child when your parents got divorced.
Right.
And so you're speaking off of your experience when you're like, I don't want my kids to be screwed up. Because I don't think a lot of kids grow up screwed up just because of a divorce. Maybe in their case, it was the best, the best case scenario was for that to happen. I know it is really hard on children, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that they would grow up screwed up, right?
Yeah, let me clarify. You're going to be screwed up either way. My opinion. My
Yeah.
opinion. If you come from a broken family, you're going to be screwed up in some way because you don't have that father and mother figure that has a good relationship together. So you don't have that example. I know I was screwed up, but at the same time, when my parents got divorced, it was the best thing that could have happened to us because they
Right.
had an awful marriage, awful, super abusive, verbally, emotionally. It was a very, very bad situation for all of us to the
Mm-hmm.
point where a lot of my siblings were uh, getting very violent,
Mm.
and a lot of us were contemplating suicide and things or
That's crazy.
murder, suicide, things like that, right? Not a good situation. So when my parents got divorced, we felt, at least I felt like, I was like, oh, I can breathe. Like, this is good. There's not this pressure of my dad there anymore. And then my mom was at work, so she wasn't there. So we were left on our own. Um, and that definitely screwed us up. Right. To
Mm.
and I mean, we all turned out okay, I think. I mean, my siblings and I are all educated. We all have, um, master's degrees plus. Um, but emotionally, there's something lacking in each one
Yeah.
of us. Right. I know I have one brother, two brothers that fight in their sleep and their wives are kind of scared of them because they sit there and like strangle pillows or punch walls or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's there's trauma there, and it's going to be because
There's definitely
families,
going to be trauma.
yeah, families are supposed to be a mom and a dad and kids,
Right.
right? That's how it is. You need to have loving parents,
Yeah.
and so if you don't, you're going to be screwed up in some way. That's just my opinion. And so for us, I wanted to make sure that the kids had a loving mom and a dad, and they grew up knowing that, oh, I'm taken care of, and they saw a good example of what do parents like good parents look like when they're interacting with each other, right? And not that everything's going to be okay all the time, but when we have struggles, when we have trials, what does it look like to deal with that and work through that as a couple, as a united front, rather than dad's going to take care of everything. Yeah, I don't need anybody else. I'm an island. I can do this myself. I
I
just didn't
got
think
you.
that was practical.
No, I totally get you. I think, yeah, I just didn't think about the whole blended situation. I thought the kids are small.
Right.
Everything's going to be fine. Like what can happen, right?
Yeah. Well,
And we were wrong.
we were wrong. That was it's very hard. Just so you know, blending families is really hard.
And
Really
we
hard.
had no idea.
No. Well, and we were blind to it because we were grieving. And when we found each other, we were like, oh my gosh, like I found I found my soulmate. I was like, oh, I love being with you. I love talking to you. And I felt more free than I had been. And so yeah, in that respect, I was definitely blind. And I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't know it was going to be that hard.
Yeah. I thought the kids are small, they have no idea, and they're just all gonna treat us each other as siblings.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case.
No.
There's still a division.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's more with the older kids because
Hmm.
they know, they remember their mom and they remember their dad, and they're like, you're not my family.
Yeah.
And I know when we first got together, we moved in, and my
Which
kids,
was a mistake
yeah, moving to that house was a mistake,
because you guys moved in into my house,
right? Yeah, and what we should have done is we should have
moved out,
found a different place,
find a different
totally
place
for us.
for all for us.
Yep. Yeah, well, live and learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should have started completely new
Yeah.
rather than because I was thinking, oh, we'll move forward. And I'm like, we shouldn't move forward. We should start fresh, right?
Yeah.
And that would have been the best option. Start fresh.
Yeah.
But that's why we're in
So
Florida.
that's tip number one. If you get married and you're blending families, do not move into the person's house
Don't do it.
because that's horrible.
Yep.
It's really, 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 really hard.
Mm-hmm.
I was not prepared for that. I felt like when you guys moved in, it felt like all of a sudden all these strangers moved in, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, this is weird.
Yep.
So, right, I was happy, but it was definitely I had to adjust.
Right. Well, that's not just how you felt. You and your son felt that way.
And you guys, right?
Right. And
Well,
then
Andrew didn't understand.
he didn't
Right.
understand, but he felt like, why are they here? Like, they're in my space.
Right.
This is my dad's room. This is my dad's
Right.
kitchen. This is my dad's
That
stuff.
was the biggest mistake, is that my room, right? Even though we changed a lot of
Right.
things,
We adjusted things. Yeah.
you were still in my late husband's room.
Right.
So that was very hard,
Yeah.
very hard. And I would wake up at night and be like, oh, I'm with Tyler. Oh, no, I'm with somebody else. So that was kind of messed up.
Yeah.
But the whole blended situation, now we live in a different house,
Mm-hmm.
which is good. We're starting fresh, which
Mm-hmm.
is good. Actually, very, 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 very far away from home.
Yeah.
And, but it's still hard.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't fix everything that we thought it would fix, right?
Yep. Well, and it's interesting because before we got married, I read The Smart Step Family because I'm a reader. I like to read. If I'm curious about something, I read it. Right, like the crystal book on our date, on our first date. I'm like, oh, what about crystals? And so I read a crystal book. But I read The Smart Step Family, and it talked about levels of difficulty and different family dynamics. And it was interesting because they said, actually, when you have older kids, like adult kids, it's very, very difficult to blend families, almost impossible.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And I think what he was saying was, because you've already got your family, and then when your kids are older, they have their families. It's hard to have everybody integrate and say, oh, we're one big family, because you're not. And you probably never will be, right? Like I know I've talked to a few people that they grow up and they've got their kids grown up, they get remarried, and they're like, oh yeah, me and my wife, we're a family. But then I still have my kids over here. She has her kids over there. They're friendly, they're cordial with each other, but they'll never go hang out and be like, hey, you're my stepbrother. You want to go hang out? And never, because they're not a family. They'll always be divided because they're older and don't have to blend.
And that's one thing that I thought, it was like, those things don't count for us because they still have their parents, their living mom, their living father that they get to see. And so they get to go out or leave for the weekend or whatever, every other holiday to be with them. I'm like, with us, we're all going to be together always.
Right.
So,
you mean like for divorced people?
Right.
Okay,
so I
see what you're
didn't
saying.
think it was going to be the same.
Right. Yeah. That was one nice thing was, because we were both widows, or we've both been widowed. The kids didn't go and live with a separate family or go live with their mom or dad separate from us. They were just with us all the time. And so
I thought it was going to be easier.
I think it has been.
It,
It's been easier than it could have been, because
Yeah.
I think the power struggle of, let's say my kids go off and live with their mom for the weekend and then come back, she'll have different rules than I do. Right.
Mhm.
And then her and I will have this power struggle where we're each trying to be the cool parent. This is just from my experience. This is what my parents did. They each want to be the cool parent. They each want to be like, no, you love being at my house. Yeah, you can stay up all night. Yeah, you can eat junk food. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules, right? Like on Mean Girls. I'm not a normal mom. I'm a cool mom, right? That's real. That's a real thing. Because
Yeah.
it's all about being vindictive and making the other parent look bad because they're angry at each other and they're bitter. And so they make you resentful of each other, right? The more they bash each other, the more you resent them. And we were fortunate that you and I didn't have that dynamic because our spouses passed away, and so it's
Right.
not.
But still
dealing
being
with
at
it.
home, I remember at the beginning, like at least the first year, you would go and put your kids to bed
Mhm.
and say prayers with them. And I would put my kids to bed and say prayers with them. We're still divided.
Right, and it's definitely a process. And I know in the book it said it takes 5+ years to blend, and we're trying to shorten that as much as possible. But
Yeah.
you know,
For me, it hurt me. It
yeah,
hurt me because that was really hard for me to process. I'm like, we're not really a family. We're a divided family. And you're like, no, we're a blended family. This is what blended families look like.
right. Well, and that's a big thing too. Is we can't treat ourselves like a normal family because we're not a normal family. We're a blended family to a point, right? With the two younger ones that don't really know any better, I think we're doing our best to say, no, 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 we're one big family. We're all taking care of each other, right? I'm dad, you're mom, and we're trying to make that work as best as possible. But yeah, the older kids kind of put that dividing line every
Hmm.
once in a while. They're like, no, we don't want to be with you. And it's silly things
Even
where,
when they're watching TV,
yeah, they're
right?
watching
Like your
TV.
three sit together and they don't let like my baby go and sit with them, and they're like, no.
Right.
So and I feel bad when my baby is being rejected because the baby doesn't know. The baby's like, oh, these are my siblings. He
Right.
doesn't know any better.
Yep.
So
And,
that's what breaks my heart. Is so hard, and
mhm.
it's a process.
Yeah.
And how long is that gonna take?
Right. Yeah. And it's hard to be patient through that because it's not just you. It's not something that you can say, we're going to fix it. Right.
Right, you can't.
It's them grieving and them dealing with it because you have to respect their emotions and say, okay, you guys are processing it in your own way. But at the same time, you can't be disrespectful to your siblings, right?
Right.
Your step siblings or whatever. And we don't even call them step siblings. We're like,
No.
this is your brother. This is your sister. That's what you are. You're not step brother and sister. You're going to be brother and sister.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's something that you just gotta adjust to. But it is hard. It is hard and it's heartbreaking,
Yeah.
to see that. And we're trying to be a family as much as we can, right? Not
Mhm.
a blended family, but we are blended. And
Yeah.
that's something that we gotta accept. Something else that we gotta grieve. I grieve not being able to have my own family,
Yeah. Your
right?
own normal
My
family.
own normal family.
Yep. Because
And
in reality, it'll never happen. Right.
I still have hopes
Well,
that it will happen one day.
I don't know. For me, I don't think we'll have a normal family. I think we'll always be a blended family to a point. Like I
Yeah.
want them to all feel comfortable that, oh, this is my brother, this is my sister. Um, but I think we're always going to be blended in some sense, right? Where, I mean, we still talk about your late husband and say, oh, well, this is your dad, and right,
Right.
and I talk about my wife, and oh, this is your mom, and this is what we did. Um, but I think one thing that I think we've been very fortunate with is extended family that we have actually been really uh,
Supportive.
supportive. They've been very, very supportive.
They have been very supportive.
Yep. I know, all the grandparents, they buy presents for all the kids, and like
Hmm.
we come over and they expect everybody to be there. And it's not this weird, oh, you're not really family. They're very, very supportive. They understand. And it's not like, no, you guys can come, but you guys can't. They're very inclusive
Yeah,
on both
that's
sides.
a good thing, right?
Hmm.
That we have, and also, I mean, it's not just all sad, like we're saying. There's been happy moments
Hmm.
where we've seen them sharing and protecting each other,
Right.
right? When they go to school together, we have the twins. We call them the twins because they're the same age, your son and my son,
Yep.
and they're gonna grow together. They're gonna go to kindergarten together. They're gonna go to the same grade. They're always gonna be in the same grade together. And I hope that like we've seen little glimpses of that of what it could be.
Hmm.
And I just hope that they grow up to be, strong brothers
Right.
and have
Yeah.
that strong bond.
Yep. That's the goal, right? And what we're doing there is, and this is funny, we moved to Florida. One of the reasons was we like Disney.
Yes.
So one of the first things we did was we got Disney passes for everybody, and we came out. We go to Disney all the time, and we try to get them involved in playing together as much as possible.
Yeah.
And they ride the rides together. We don't separate it where you go with yours, I'll go with mine.
Right.
We try to blend that as much as possible.
Right.
And I'll take this kid, you take that kid. Some of the kids are too young and they have to go with us, but yeah, we try to blend it as much as possible. And I think we do a good job of the kids saying, I want to go with daddy, I want to go with mommy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not totally one-sided.
No, and that's something that it comes natural, right?
Right.
Just like our nanny said, I wouldn't have guessed that you guys were a blended family
Right.
because we tried not to act like a blended family.
Right.
but there comes moments where you can totally see it.
Yeah.
And the good thing about our family is that all the kids, they blend in.
They do blend in, which is funny. Yeah. And it's, and we're talking, even just like skin color.
Mm-hmm.
Because, right, your husband was a very tall white guy.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was a brown girl,
Right.
a Filipina.
You definitely have your type.
I have a type. I have a type. And yeah, so the kids are all mixed
Yeah.
and they look like siblings.
They do look like siblings.
Yeah. And so it's like, I think every once in a while when the kids are at the park, we're like, let's count the shades, right? And so we're like, who's the whitest down to who's the darkest? And it's kind of funny because it's all a spectrum.
Yeah.
But yeah, they look like
They
siblings.
look like siblings.
Yeah. It's not like,
And I think
a
the funniest
big color
thing
difference.
is that my baby, right? The one that I had after my husband died,
Mhm.
he's very white, and people think he looks like you.
I know everybody comes up, oh, he looks just like you. And I'm like, oh, thanks. I don't know why.
I
But
think it's
thank
the
you.
skin color.
Yeah, it's got to be it.
Obviously, the skin color.
It's got to be it. It's just,
But
it's just funny. He's got your face. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. But that's a fun thought.
I think that's funny.
No.
Right.
One thing with us too is I know when you're blending families, there's always a concern, especially when you have girls, of how that's
Yes.
going to work.
Oh my gosh.
Right. Again, I think we, according to the book, The Smart Step Family, we're in one of the best positions where I have the girls. And so we're not worried about me doing anything to them because they're my
Right.
babies.
You're right.
Right. And then typically women don't do that. They're not the offender.
If I would have had girls, I think I would have taken. I don't know if I
I
would have
don't-
gotten married.
I don't think you would have gotten married
I would be like, I don't know if I trust you.
because it's a
girl.
weird world.
It is a weird world.
Yeah. So that I think we got very fortunate there because yeah,
Yes.
if you had girls, you would be single forever.
I don't trust people very easy like that.
Mm-mm.
I
No.
think I would have been single forever, and I only have boys.
Yep.
So that was and I was always wondering about that. Why do I only have boys? And now it makes sense.
Yep.
It all makes sense.
Yep. And one thing too is, I know we've talked about this a little bit. When somebody loses a mom or dad, and this is kind of weird, but they become a victim. Like everybody feels like the whole world sees them as a victim, and they say, "Oh, you're not protected anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom's gone. Your dad's gone. How can I hurt you?" And it's weird. And it may not be conscious, but that's how
Especially
it
when they're
feels.
little.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
when they're little because they can't talk, they can't say anything.
Yep.
And there's too many stories of bad things happening to kids
Mm-hmm.
when they're not protected like that, right? So I think it's very fortunate that we found each other and we both
100%.
understand that.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. I feel very honored to be, the mom of your kids, and for you to be the dad of my kids, and they get to grow with you, and the girls have me, and I feel so lucky to have girls finally because I always wanted to have girls.
Mhm.
But it's normal to feel that it's not easy. A blended family will always be a blended family, like you're saying, and it's something that you just have to accept.
Right. And I don't want to say we're not lowering our expectations there.
No,
I think we're just setting them in reality where we want everybody to feel like, oh, this is my brother, this is my sister,
Mhm.
with the understanding that we are a blended and grieving family. And so, that's going to come up, right? Like the kids are going to miss their mom or they're going to miss their dad or right? Like that's the reality of it.
And I honestly love our family,
Mhm.
right? What we have created, or what we are creating
Mhm.
with our kids growing up, and this wouldn't have happened if our spouses wouldn't have died. And so, even though we obviously didn't want them to pass away, I think we are creating a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, and um, one thing that I really like is with you, because I've got my girls, you're making them very, very girly. And you're taking them and getting dresses and doing their hair, and they're getting into cheer and dance, and they're going out and doing extracurricular activities. That is one thing I would recommend to people is if you are blending families, get the kids into extracurricular activities, get them into sports, get them into singing,
Yes.
because their confidence is going to go down because the kids are great observers, but they're bad interpreters. They
Mhm.
see everything, but they don't know what it means. And so when your family gets broken, whether it's, divorce or death or whatever, um, they think it's their fault. They do. They're like, mommy's not here because of me. Or, you guys broke up because of me or whatever it is. And that's just not true, but that's how they see it. And so their confidence goes down because they think everything's their fault. And so putting them in sports or putting them in something competitive gives them an outlet, right? Emotion creates emotion. And they're like, oh, okay. And they start feeling better. And really, that's why they're in sports. That's why we put our kids in sports, is because we want them to have that confidence. And we want them to be able to say, I can do this. I
And
can do
I and
hard
I
things.
honestly feel like I've been able to strengthen our relationship more
Hmm.
because with Jasmine, the cheerleader, right? Like I get to be there for her
Hmm.
and be her biggest supporter.
Right.
And I also think that don't expect to just come in as mom. I think I portray myself more as a friend,
Hmm.
and I think that's something that has helped.
Yeah.
Obviously, I tell them they have to obey, they have to, respect me,
Hmm.
but I don't expect them to think that I'm replacing their mom.
Right. Yeah. As you're coming in as a step parent, it's important to be their friend first and
Right.
foremost. Right. And that's really all they want. And the older they get, the more they just want that. They don't want a parent. Right. They don't want, especially if they think you're coming to replace their parent,
Right.
they're not interested.
Right.
They just want a friend.
They want a friend.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
and they want to feel understood. And I think we have that where I get them. I'm
mhm.
like, I lost, Tyler, you lost your mom. My kids lost a dad. You guys lost your mom.
Mhm.
We're all we're all in this together. We understand each other.
Right.
So that's a good thing.
Yep. So, but yeah, blending families is very difficult. It is also it's very rewarding as well,
Hmm.
right? Because like I love your two just like they're my own kids, right? Like I'm doing everything I absolutely can to make sure they're comfortable. The two little ones, I'm the one that puts them to bed at night, right? I hold them and they fall asleep here and here, and then I wake up and I'm sore, but
And
it's
they
fun,
prefer you. They
and they
want to be with
prefer me.
daddy.
Yeah, they prefer me, and
Yeah.
it's fun because yeah, I feel privileged to be able to be their dad in the interim that I get to be here with them,
Right.
right? And then they get to grow up, and they're not going to be lacking. They're always
Right.
going to say, "Hey, I have a dad that loves me," as well as right their biological dad who absolutely loves them,
Yeah.
just physically isn't here at the moment.
Right. Yeah. The only one we're struggling with is our teenager.
Yep. Yeah.
That one's where you definitely feel the blended family, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that that's completely normal. Like you were saying, you hoped that your mom did not get married.
Yeah.
For you, it was like a
Yeah.
threat. If there was any man, it was a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure he feels the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just hard. It's
Yep.
hard and it sucks.
Yeah. Baby steps though, right? And that's the biggest thing is you do what's right, you do what feels right. You say like really, you go to intuition and you just say, what's the right move here? For us, it was get married, move forward, and you say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And it's challenging, it's difficult, and that's why we have the support and we have tools that we can use. But yeah, it's going to be difficult. It's going to suck at times, but it's going to be worth it.
Yeah. So for any of you guys, if you're thinking of getting remarried and you have little kids, I'm not gonna say don't do it. Just do whatever feels right, and know that it is gonna be hard. It is gonna be worth it, though.
Mhm.
Nothing is easy in life, right? The harder it is, the more what do you say? The more
The more rewarding it is,
rewarding it is.
can be. Yeah,
So,
but take your time.
but to definitely take your time.
Yeah,
Do not rush into anything because it is, it's definitely not just all roses. How do you say
sunshine
that?
and
Sunshine
rainbows,
and
or
rainbows
yep,
and whatever.
yep, and
Um,
yeah, take your time. And I know like for me, right? I felt like I couldn't be mom and dad. That's okay. That's okay.
yeah, it's totally valid.
Yeah, and don't beat yourself up over that. You're doing the best you can, and maybe that's what they need right now.
Hmm.
Take your time because making the wrong choice would be much worse than not making that choice. So yeah, take your time, make sure it's the right choice before you move.
Yeah, and that you'll have somebody that will actually love your kids.
Right.
That's something that's very important too.
Yeah.
So
So But that's our episode. We would just want to talk about blending families and the challenges, successes, and we'd love to hear you guys' comments. Let us know,
Yeah.
what other things you want to
Even
know
any
about
tips.
blending.
Any tips that you
tips
guys
would be
have,
great.
please give us some, because we are totally new to this.
We're figuring it out.
We're trying to figure it out as, on top of grieving. So
Yep.
that would be really great. I look forward to your comments, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. See you on the next episode of Aid Rice Up.